Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Will and welcome to Copper Jacket TV. Hopefully everybody out there is doing well. So earlier today I was fortunate enough to get my hands on the new V-Series Glock. Huge shout out to these guys right here for really allowing me to take a deep dive into it, to see what the differences are between the V-Series and the Gen 5, all the changes that were made, and even dispel some of the rumors that were going around. But today what I really want to talk about are those changes, the changes that I saw, going to be enough to get this thing back on the California roster. Because as you know, the rest of the country can enjoy whatever evolution comes next. But in California, as of January 1st, they're all going to be gone. They're all going to be off the roster. Whatever is left, and those are going to be available until the ban fully takes effect on July 1st. Now, like I've mentioned in other videos with AB 1127, there is a carve-out in that bill, and if changes are made, there is a possibility that it could come back, and could Californians see the Gen V? That's what I want to talk about today, so let's get to it. Now, real quick before we get started, this video is proudly sponsored by American Heart for Gold. Listen, everybody in the firearms community understands the value of precious metals. Brass and lead could protect your life, but silver and gold can protect your savings. You know, in our lifetime, the dominance of the US dollar was supreme, but that may change soon. The stock market swings back and forth every day, and we're facing record inflation, increasing costs, and unprecedented tariffs. So don't let your life savings become a casualty of market crashes or tariff wars. In times of economic chaos like now, there is one currency that stood the test of time and continues to increase in value: physical gold and silver. Now, they can print more dollars, but they can't print any more gold. While the value of the dollar is tanking, the value of gold is hitting record heights, with many predicting that gold might reach $5,000 an ounce by the end of 2025. Now is the time to call the only precious metal dealer that I trust, American Heart for Gold. They'll show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio with physical gold and silver delivered directly to your door. You can also transfer your current retirement account into a gold IRA, tax and penalty free, with the finest products, amazing customer service, and buyback commitment. American Heart for Gold has a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. In a sea of anti-2A companies, American Heart for Gold proudly supports pro-2A content. If you contact American Heart for Gold today and tell them I sent you, they will give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first order. So call them now. Click the link in the description or call 866-856-2507. That's 866-856-2507, or text COPPER to 65532. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what's going on here. So like I said before, earlier today I was able to get my hands on the new V-Series, and I was able to compare it to the Gen 5, which is what it's based on. If you think about it, you have the Gen 5 and then the V-Series, V being the Roman numeral for 5. It really just went from the Gen 5 to the 5 Series. Not really all that much difference. And from the outside, you couldn't really see much of a difference at all. Unless you actually looked at the engraving or you looked at the end plate, you wouldn't be able to tell that there was a difference at all. If you guys are interested in seeing the close-ups and the shots of the actual differences and the breakdowns and stuff like that, I'll go ahead and I'll put a link to Spartan's channel down below. That's where that's going to be at. Unfortunately, it's not going to be able to be here, but it's going to be there, and you guys can go down in the description box and you can check that out for yourself. Again, we go into a pretty deep dive. But the big question here is whether or not enough changes were made to get this thing back on the roster, or were too many changes made and now it can't get back on the roster. Because like I was saying before, there was a carve-out in AB 1127, the bill that originally got these things banned from the roster, that allows for a manufacturer that existed on the roster prior to these changes taking effect to reapply, as long as they did so before January 1st of 2027, so long as they followed specific rules that are written in the bill. These rules kind of dictate whether or not they're going to make it back or not. And so we have to look at this and then look at the changes that were made to see whether or not it complies. Okay, so here's a look at section 32103 of AB 1127. This is the requirements to get back on the roster. And we're going to focus on number 3 here, because it says the pistol was thereafter only modified to change design features which brought the pistol within the definition of machine gun convertible pistol in section 16885. So that's the part that's got me a little bit worried right there, because it meets all of the other requirements to get back on the roster. Yes, it was on the roster before a specific date. Yes, enough changes were made so that it no longer falls under the category that was banned. Yes, it can go through the same testing that it went through before and pass with flying colors. But did they make too many changes? Because it says only changes made to the affected part, right? So essentially, what they want is the exact same thing that was on the roster before, but with the necessary changes that are made so that everything else is the same, but it's no longer convertible. And unfortunately, that's not what we have here. So if Glock's intention was to not only defeat these lawsuits, but also get back on the roster, my own personal opinion is it's not going to work. I don't see this going back on the roster. And the reason is because the V Series is essentially a changed Gen 5. It's not what California is looking for, which is a Gen 3 with the necessary changes made to it, because California is a stickler on everything. If they have something that's already on the roster, right? It's been approved, it's on the roster, but let's say it's all black, right? And then a new version comes out and it has a gray frame. Just that simple color change changes the SKU and means that that one now has to be approved to be put on the roster. So even color makes a difference in California. And the differences between the Gen 5 or the V Series and the Gen 3, there's quite a few. And I think that it exceeds what California is looking for, which again are only those necessary changes. So for instance, the V Series has removable back straps. The Gen 3 doesn't. The V Series doesn't have finger grooves. The Gen 3 does. The V Series has a dual capture recoil spring. The Gen 3 does not. You have forward slide serrations on the V Series. The Gen 3 doesn't. You have the ambidextrous mag release on the V Series, and the Gen 3 doesn't. You add all of that on top of the necessary changes that were made, and I think what happened here is that they basically went too far and they added too much. Now, trust me, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. However, I know California politicians pretty well. I've been doing this on my YouTube channel now for the past 13 years or so, and you can see how they operate. They don't want these things on the roster to begin with. That was their whole goal, was to get them removed from the roster. They don't want them in the state. And so they're going to look for whatever reason possible to make sure that they can keep them off of there. And if they made too many changes, which is, in my opinion, what I see here, then I think they're going to deny it. What California is going to do is they're going to look at this as a new pistol altogether, and they're going to require it to now have an LCI and an MDM and go through the testing in order to get on the roster as something new. Where before, under AB 1127, if they made the necessary changes to a Gen 3, they'd be able to get back without having those additional features. But because there's so many changes here, again, I think that they're going to try and make them add those things. And it comes down to a couple things. One, whether or not the manufacturer is even willing to do that, because as you know right now, none of their items have anything like that on there. And whether or not they're going to be even interested in trying to do it. So whether they're going to try for the roster at all, they may have this new V Series and not even apply to get back on the roster. So we're going to have to see. But just based on everything that I'm seeing, even though it sucks, and even though it's all wrong, and even though it's caused by the roster, because if the roster didn't exist, people, even with that law, people just go out and get whatever next generation comes out, right? But with the roster and not being able to get back on the roster, that's what keeps things out of the state. And so that's kind of where we are right now. I think that they made enough changes to get out of those lawsuits. Whether you think it's right or wrong, whether you think they capitulated or they bent the knee, I guess that's for a different video. But I think they made the necessary changes to get out from underneath those lawsuits, but they might have made too many changes to get back on the California roster. And that's, again, my own personal opinion, just based on everything that I've seen and everything that I'm reading. So I wanted to share that with you after I got my hands on it, got to look at it, got to inspect it, and see what it's all about. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I think it's a mess. It's an absolute disaster. I don't think we're going to see him back in the state for a long time, if we ever do. The only way I think we're going to be able to see him back in the state is if we win some of the lawsuits that are challenging the roster. If we can get the roster overturned in court, great. If with the roster gone and with those requirements gone, there's nothing that's stopping them at that point from bringing in whatever they want. So hopefully we can see this roster lawsuit work out. But I wanted to share that with you guys. Again, it's my own personal opinion, and I might be wrong, and I hope I eat my words here, but that's how I feel, at least at this point. So I wanted to share that with you. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and y'all have a great day.